Hello, I'm Steve Konish, and this is a OpenShift 4 demonstration. I'm going to walk you through the AWS preparation, the OpenShift preparation, OpenShift deployment on AWS, and a quick introduction. Okay, let's sign into the AWS console. Okay, let's make sure that you have an active user. If you don't, go ahead and click Add User. Enter a username and select the access type, and then click Next Permissions. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is set up a domain. We click Route 53 here. We need to create a hosted zone. So you're going to have to go ahead and create one if you don't have one already. So you can just create a sample name. Like I said, OCP on AWS. Check that no one else is using it. And then go ahead and make sure that you have a hosted zone. The next thing you're going to have to do is create a key pair if you don't already have one. Create a key pair by clicking Create Key Pair and then saving it to your local disk. Okay, now let's go over the OpenShift preparation. Okay, let's go to tryopenshift.com and then click on the AWS cloud versus one of the other clouds. And then click on Installer Provisioned Infrastructure. And now we're going to scroll down and click on Download the Installer and then select the appropriate installer for your host. In my case, it's a Mac. Download the pull secret and copy that to a file, and then download the command line tools, and that include kubectl and the OC command. Then once you've downloaded those, go ahead and untar them or extract them. See that the one I'm using has the Mac name within it. That's just because I'm on a Mac. Okay, you should now see the kubectl and the OC command, as well as the pull secret and the OpenShift install command. And the OpenShift install command is used to deploy the cluster and delete it. So now let's go ahead and create a subdirectory. I'll call mine AWS cluster. Okay, now let's deploy OpenShift on AWS. Okay, now we're going to run the OpenShift install command. We're going to say create cluster and pass in the subfolder that we created previously. And then we're going to turn the debug logging on. Now we're going to select the appropriate cloud. In our case, it's AWS. We're going to select the AWS region, the base domain, which is the domain you created as a hosted zone in AWS. And then you're going to pass in a cluster name. In my case, it's OCP demo. And then you're going to paste in the contents of the pull secret file. And then give it some time. Okay, let's log into the cluster and go through a quick introduction. The OpenShift cluster is now deployed on AWS. The OpenShift web console is accessible via the supplied URL, and we can log in using the OC command using the kubeadmin username and the randomly generated password. We'll use the kubeadmin user for this demonstration, but it's a best practice to remove it eventually. Next, we can access OpenShift using either the web user interface, otherwise known as the web console, or using the command line. When using the command line, we can use the kubectl command, which is native to Kubernetes, or we can use the OC command, which has extensions to kubectl but is binary compatible. Okay, let's log into the OpenShift cluster. Let's verify the login using kubectl. Whoops, kubectl doesn't have support for the UMI command, so let's use the OC command instead. Okay, you can see we're logged in as kubeadmin. So OpenShift can run all OCI formatted containers. Let's try and download and run an Ubuntu container. Okay, now let's go ahead and look at the status. Okay, we can see that the container has some errors. It's actually doing a crash looping. The reason for that is that this particular container requires root access. By default, OpenShift 4 prevents root access by the containers. So let's go ahead and delete that container. Okay, now let's go ahead and run the Red Hat Enterprise Linux Universal Base Image container instead. Okay, now let's run it. Okay, now let's connect to it. Let's see what kind of resources it's using. Okay, we've got 2 CPUs, etc. Let's exit back to the shell prompt and out of the container. Now let's look at the OC admin top to look at the compute resource consumption. Okay, we can see that it's 27 megabytes with very little CPU consumption. Okay, now let's switch to the web console. Okay, let's go ahead and log into the cluster as kubeadmin. Okay, we can take a look at the dashboard by default, the cluster utilization, and the inventory. Here we've got 6 nodes. We can click on this to look at more details. We've got 3 masters and 3 workers. We could go to the projects view. We could create a new project. Right now we're using the default project. I could call this test project. And now we can go to the workloads and look at the pods. Okay, we could go ahead and create a sample pod. And this is just a Hello OpenShift pod. We go ahead and create that. And we go back to the pods view, and we can see that the example is running. We can also go down to the admin view, go down to administration and cluster settings. You can see that we're currently running on 4.2. An update is available. So I could go ahead and select 4.2.2 or 4.2.7. I can then go ahead and click update, and then the cluster will automatically be updated to 4.2.7. So after I click apply, the Red Hat Core OS features transactional upgrades and rollbacks. So updates are delivered via container images and are part of the OpenShift update process. So when these are deployed, the container image is pulled, extracted, and written to disk, and then the bootloader is modified to boot to the new version. At that point, the machine will reboot into the update in a rolling manner to ensure the cluster capacity is minimally impacted. So that concludes this simple introduction. Thank you for watching.